Assembly, county parliaments, leaders and parliament for the welfare of the society and the just government of the people. We beseech you, Lord, that in favor as your servant whom you have been pleased to call the performance of the trust in this republic. Let your blessing descend upon us assembled, grant that we will consider all matters that shall come, and our liberation is so just enough, faithful manners to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peaceful prosperity and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests we have come to the church. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of order. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements. Order number 8, motion on establishment of county cultural center by Honorable DEKHA BONJAH.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Establishment of County Cultural Center. That aware that the cultural activities are function of the county government according to the 4th schedule of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Appreciating that Isiolo County is endowed with rich cultural diversity and beauty scenic sites. Further appreciating that development of cultural heritage sites and cultural festivals can achieve economic development through commercialization of cultural practices and preservation of these culture for future generations. Noting that the county, Isiolo County, is endowed with rich, diverse cultural ethnic groups and represents all the 42 and more Kenyan tribes. Further noting that establishment of cultural center within the county will promote our cultural diversity, attract further local and international tourism, increase county revenue as well, improve youth and women livelihood, hence people socioeconomic status. Concern that failure of county government to exploit the county rich cultural heritage diversification and related products is denying Isiolo residents talent and artifact development. Further concern that lack of exploitations of these rich county residents' cultural heritage has effects in reduction of county revenues. Improve of youth and women livelihood and in activation, youth and women talents and more solo performance of Isiolo County as a tourist destination in the region. This House therefore urges the County Executive Committee member of Tourism, Trade and Cooperatives to 1. Identify and establish potential cultural heritage sites in each of sub-counties. Organize seasonal cultural festival in each of the sub-counties and annual cultural festive in Isiolo sub-county Central Business District. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I really support the motion and want to continue. I think the motion is very important for our country. I think we are so much endowed. It's like all the culture is represented in Isiolo County. You can't miss a culture in Isiolo County. It is so diverse, and that diversity is our strength. Our kids nowadays, and I'm sure every member will concur with this, it's like we've forgotten our cultures. The kids have forgotten our cultures, and if this motion is going to put into order, and the establishment of these cultural centers are going to be done with a lot of haste, I think things are going to improve in our county, in as much as it's going to also raise some funds, revenues for our county, because we are supposed to raise our county revenues, our own source revenues, and using these cultural festivals. One, it's going to expand the wards. It's going to expand our wards. It's going to generate some revenue for even local people selling different artifacts in that ward, and also it's going to even teach our kids our culture, because they are going to learn. They are going to learn, and they are going to get something. Because the moment we just leave them like this, I think we are going to be lost. So I really support the motion, and I think it's going to be taken with a lot of haste, so that it is established. We really support, and then I think things are going to improve in our county. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I report a proposal that aware that the cultural activities are a function of the county government according to the structure of the constitutional aim of the time, appreciating that Isiolo County is endowed with rich cultural diversity and beautiful scenic sites. Further appreciating that the development of cultural heritage sites and cultural festivals can achieve economic development through commercialization of culture practice and the preservation of this culture for future generations. Noting that Isiolo County is endowed with rich, diverse cultural ethnic groups that represent all the 42 and more key tribes. Further noting that the establishment of cultural centers within the county will promote our cultural diversity, attract further locals and the international tourism, increases county revenue, as well improve the youth and women livelihood, hence people socio-economic status. Concerned that failure of county government to exploit the county rich cultural heritage, diversification and related products is denying the Isiolo resident talents and the artifact development. Further concerned that lack of exploitation of this rich county resident cultural heritage has effect in reduction of county revenue, improvement of youth and women livelihood, and in activation youth and women talents, and more so low performance to Isiolo County as a tourist destination in the region. This House therefore urges the County Executive Committee members for Tourism, Trade and Cooperative to 1. Establish potential cultural heritage sites in each of the sub-counties. Organize seasonal cultural festival in each of the sub-counties and annual cultural festival in Isiolo sub-county central business districts. It's open for debate.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this motion and actually highly recommend that the cultural center for the multicultural center for Isiolo is a must, so that it can be a custodian of all the culture of the communities of Isiolo. I stand here, Mr. Speaker, as a person a very worried person whose culture is threatened. At my age, I'm a grandfather, and my biggest worry is that my grandchildren are describing the beauty of the African people from what they have seen in the television, copying the Western culture, that beauty is to be a slim person. Mr. Speaker, the beauty of the African people actually enshrined in their culture, in their walk, in their talks, in their dances and music, Mr. Speaker. But today, our culture is eroded. We are delinked from our culture because we don't have attachment with our ancestral land. Our culture teaches us about our environment. There is a transmission of knowledge of the environment to our youth so that sustainably the culture is kept by the people. Now there's been a lot of challenges, Mr. Speaker, why our culture is eroded. So that now we need to have a cultural center where our children will look their roots, and learn first of all from a cultural center. We are losing land, Mr. Speaker. Any community which loses land are actually losing culture. They will be delinked from the environment, Mr. Speaker. That is why it is very important for our youth who have got now, because of education, get delinked from their lineage. Should now go to a cultural center, do a bit of a research. Those knowledge which has been transmitted today, because they are delinked from their grandfathers and the grandmothers, they now can find it in a record at the cultural center. They can see it physically, the dances and the music, and be able to ask themselves what the meaning is. Mr. Speaker, I tried myself in 2002 to come up with a multicultural center to enjoy the diversity of Isiolo around Garmara. The greedy leaders by then could not give enough land, Mr. Speaker, to accommodate all the communities of Isiolo.
I remember, I think that is a very hard name.
I withdraw, Mr. Speaker.
And apologize to the leaders.
I apologize to the leaders, the previous leaders and the current leaders, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. So, Mr. Speaker, that is in 2002 when we wanted to, from the county council, the defunct county council, to give land. Now the land in the district development committee, he said there is no land. That was in 2002. And later on they gave a very small land in Kambigarba here. The requirement was actually 10 acres by then, because the National Museums of Kenya gave a requirement that an ideal site to accommodate the multicultural communities in Isiolo, the minimum was 10 acres. Processing became too difficult because there's no commitment from the government then and the leaders. It is now encroached on until the donor withdrew from putting up the funding the cultural center. I came through that kind of an experience, Mr. Speaker. Actually, it is not a commercial aspect that we have to look at. We are talking of protection of our identity as an African society, Mr. Speaker. Today, my community where I come from, Boran, those who are of my age and beyond are the most worried people. In even choosing a girl to marry, simply somebody does not know even which clan they come from, because in Boran divided into two major groups. One group marries from the other side, and my daughter is married from this side. They cannot marry from the same clan, Mr. Speaker. It is a taboo. It is not acceptable, Mr. Speaker. But the religion, which definitely I am born first of all as a Boran, and then later on I choose which religion I have to adapt. Sorry if I offend any believer or an... Mr. Speaker, first of all, my identity, I'm born as a Boran. Then I choose which church to go to, or I choose Islam. But first thing that I am being told that this is being transmitted to me is, what are those parameters I have to look into in order to acquire a woman? The clan issue comes in. It is a taboo if I don't follow that, Mr. Speaker. Today they say it is because of religion. Some now they say they have not been told, because surely there's no knowledge, cultural knowledge which has been transmitted to them. Then they marry from the same sub-clan. Later on now they become a miserable people, psychologically suffering, Mr. Speaker, as they grow, because their uncles are supposed to be from the other side, the lineage of her mother. Now it happened to be, it is from the same sub-clan, Mr. Speaker. This is a very dangerous situation that we are in, Mr. Speaker. Now such children get so much demoralized, they actually feel linked completely from the society, Mr. Speaker. So don't look into actually the requirement of having a cultural center from the commercial point of view, Mr. Speaker. The economic value or gain that we're going to have out of the cultural center is just, or the revenue is just, by the way, Mr. Speaker. Now, if the children in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, and in Isiolo now are losing their culture, what do you think of those Kenyans from Isiolo who are in diaspora, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, my daughter cannot come with the so-called boyfriend to my house today in this 21st century. It is not acceptable, Mr. Speaker. But when they are now from Europe, they think this is normal practice, Mr. Speaker. An African identity is threatened, Mr. Speaker. An African identity is, and the people with no identity, Mr. Speaker, are the lost society. I have my daughter who has a PhD from Stanford University in America, Mr. Speaker. Now, when she reported for the first time, Mr. Speaker, and I'm the one who chose, by the way, that school for her, because it was girls' school, my thinking then, in 2004, unfortunately, she got now a very terrible experience and challenges, Mr. Speaker, where a girl admires her as a beautiful partner, Mr. Speaker, because she went with a bit of her identity. She felt so much uncomfortable and felt coming back to Kenya. Somehow she was to get a psychology, she was to be comforted, and she continued with her education, Mr. Speaker, and be able to complete. But do you know what she told me from my experience, Mr. Speaker, that what is important in America is to get education and run back to Africa, and because Africa looks at the most qualified person to be given a good job. She said that is a community which is actually lost. Mr. Speaker, no respect of children for the parents. When a child cries because she could tell the government that she was shouted on, or he was shouted on by the parents. The parents are arrested, Mr. Speaker. Now those are what our children are now copying, Mr. Speaker. That a beauty in an African society of Kenya today is now, Mr. Speaker, is a slim lady. Because that is what Americans are saying, or Europeans are saying, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's because there's no transmission from their grandparents to the children. So the cultural center is overdue, Mr. Speaker. This is what I'm trying to emphasize. That those who are in diaspora and some of us who are in the urban areas, Mr. Speaker, they come in a very clean cars to the rural areas, and the children speak only English, Mr. Speaker, cannot speak the mother tongue, can have now time to go to cultural center and be able to look at a record, Mr. Speaker. Those are one of the purposes of the cultural center. The researchers, Mr. Speaker, are misinformed nowadays. I'm telling you from experience, where a German anthropologist, Mr. Speaker, visits now Isiolo, and they wanted to actually write, or what do you call, dispute, a book on the culture of Boran. Dispute on the culture of Boran, they wanted to write something to change it, Mr. Speaker, where a role of an elderly person in a village is spelled out properly. Culture brings cohesion, Mr. Speaker. Now, the external forces don't want this cohesion, Mr. Speaker. They want African society to be dismantled. The culture is the first thing to be interfered with, Mr. Speaker. The second thing is about the grabbing of the land, Mr. Speaker.
Remember, just learn to look at 97 standing order. We'll give you a limit of we have given you long time, but conclude.
I'm going to conclude, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much. This is a very important motion, Mr. Speaker, where actually we must be the first people now to pursue and restore our culture, Mr. Speaker, in this county by giving the land immediately, Mr. Speaker, and be able to develop it, Mr. Speaker. I have seen a circumcision of men being done in hospital, and then nowadays when you look at counties like Meru, like around this time, it is being advertised. And a muzee, like an old man like me now, is making money because he will be now narrating and teaching the culture of Meru people to the youth. It is now we are trying to come back to it, but the best way of coming back to this, Mr. Speaker, we must have a legislation to support and protect our culture. We provide the land, we provide the budget, Mr. Speaker, and develop the cultural center and pursue for the restoration of the culture of the Isiolo people. It is so important, Mr. Speaker. There is happiness in having the multicultural activities, and such we must have actually at least once in a year to have multicultural center, festival in Isiolo. Not the NGO or the non-governmental organization sponsoring, Mr. Speaker. Should be fully sponsored by the budget of this county, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to support this motion.
So, but I just give him more time to talk of, because we are learning history from him, isn't it? So I didn't have, I'll just give him some few minutes for us to learn this. So other members, I think you should not take his foot, unless you have a good history on the same, which were included.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to support the motion, and I think most of the things has been said, but I wanted to just say a few, which I think will have some message of what has already been said. The cultural center is long overdue, has already been said by the member for Kina. In most of our neighboring areas, we see people having usually having shows whereby a lot of things are displayed for learning by schools and institutions. And most of our kids usually during these shows, we take them because it is a learning avenue. Most of the time I wondered all through why there are no such things in Isiolo County, which has all the potential to have those activities or those institutions. And like you know that we have 3 game reserves, which is very potential for the visitors. These visitors, these museums and cultural centers are one of the main areas where these visitors are interested in, and that will add a lot of value even to our game reserves, because in addition to coming to view our wildlife, also these visitors also will have also these museums with the diverse cultures to view. But we have, I think we have delayed, and it's time that we wake up and plan, give some land for this institution to take off. Apart from being potential, being also promotion and marketing for our game reserves, for our 3 game reserves, it is also one of the ways of solving our insecurity issues. As you know, these insecurity issues is always recurring on and off in our county. And one of the ways that we are going to curb this insecurity is by bringing in these museums, so that people mix, people, intermingle, and the people start accepting and internalizing each other's culture and appreciate. This will somehow soften the people, each of our communities, to each other. The promotion and marketing, because it will also open up our diverse cultures, and also our game reserves, our wildlife, all the potentials in this county. We have several of them that it will open to us up to the world. So I see having a museum, getting enough land. I think the museum and is the general name, which is also having the culture and everything. Museum is another thing, like the animal orphanage, whereby in Meru they have a very small portion of land where they keep a few of the wildlife domesticated within that cage, whereby the small young people of the pre-unit to grade 3 go and visit and get, themselves introduced to the wildlife. And these things bring in income. And those are how to ways of now the ways of improving our own source revenue, which the government is currently encouraging. So I really welcome this motion, and also as the sector for tourism, trade and cooperative development, the leadership of the sector to take action in quickly, very fast, to start ways of now starting this institution. First is to get land. I know it is not impossible to get.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. If you want to provoke an elderly man, discuss in front of him about the culture. The mover of the motion provoke an elder who is the MCA Kina, MCA Waidaka, and Honorable Selassie Okiambi. They will go into an history discussing about how maybe they got married. But we are in a very modern society. Things are progressive. The culture should be progressive. Maybe the mover didn't maybe bring to our attention what aspect of the culture that maybe she wants the government to address. But however, I will go and put into perspective the threat of a culture, maybe by the two emerging issues. That is the government and the religion. The government, in our maybe the primitive culture of our maybe community, the Boran, or the pastoralist community, have their ways of getting maybe economically empowered by doing maybe several things. As a part of a culture, maybe in terms of economy, there is an animal raid that we are doing intercommunally. Maybe those. Very good. So this culture, maybe the government come up with a policy and restrict maybe those kind of an activity which has an economic benefit and also has an effect on some other community that is disadvantaging them. Socially, we have maybe some kind of an activity that we do as a community. That is maybe traditional dances, back in the night, whereby a young, vibrant young man who has not got married interact with a lady at the wee hours of the night. Maybe talk to her through the dances and the folk song and end up getting married. That is a benefit. Politically, things are stratified. A knowledge is passed from a generation to a generation orally by an elder. If a son, maybe in a family, there is a son, and the father is a leader, that knowledge is passed maybe to son by looking at what his father is doing. If the father is a leader, then he will go through the lineage so that the whole generation that comes after him learns those kind of maybe leadership skills by way of engaging in a fight, not that much harsh, but somehow arbitrary, simple way. But this style has changed. Those cultural leaders are no longer there. Things are becoming now political. You must muscle in and get maybe a seat, the ones that we have gone through 3 months ago. Threatening the culture, religion also got a bite on it. In as much as it is bad, maybe the government has banned it, there is something we call an FGM, female genital mutilation. I do not support it, but it is part of the culture which maybe both the government and religion are fighting. Those are the kind of a culture which is already dying. In our community, there is something we call ayan, a cultural dance. Maybe it has some spiritual benefit in terms of medicinal purposes, but it is a practice which we need to learn. It is good, we should maintain it. Religion has also an impact on the food that we eat, especially the red meat, the animal meat, especially the Islam. We maybe some religious, some community already are currently practicing, but some are being limited by religion, by piercing a bull on the neck and maybe sucking the blood. Those are part of the culture, which is not there. Our social interaction also have been limited. The ones that I have said that the young girls and the boys interact and maybe get to know each other, and maybe end up getting married. But the religion as a way of restricting it, which is good and bad. Our way of dressing has been changed completely. The suit and tie is a modern culture, but the retrogressive, the culture that we are talking about, the only community which is practicing their current mode of dressing are the only Maasais, those who live in the interiors. But those who have migrated to the modern town, they are wearing suits. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, the culture is a very general term. We should be very specific in dealing with this issue. It should not be maybe centered in a town like Isiolo. It should be at the interior, whereby the community is still maybe somehow practicing it. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, as much as the motion is good, but it should be restructured and look somehow maybe important, that it should maybe trigger those kind of maybe benefits the mover is talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I really thank the mover of this motion that I support. I come from a community that is really lost when it comes to culture. We copied everything that was white, that came with the European, and in the process, we lost a lot. Sometimes when I look at cultural dances that take place in Turkana County, I'm really impressed that our people, we are vibrant even when, when you try to communicate, you communicate with your mother tongue. The one that you are able to describe the world with it. And sometimes we get, sometimes even limited, even here in Parliament, because sometimes you cannot use the language that you feel you are more comfortable with it. This one is, if you want to colonize the people, you make them demean their culture. They see it, even speaking in their language, it is bad. We have been colonized. Our minds have been colonized fully. If you look at an African culture, the way it was structured, an uncle was supposed to take care even of his sister's children if the father was not there. But currently you find that we have people, we have children in the streets because we lost our culture. Because formerly what used to happen, especially in the culture that I come from, an uncle was a very important person to the kid, and even the aunts. They used to take care of their siblings. They used to call it their blood, and in a real sense, it's their blood. But now, looking at where I come from Burapesa, where there are so many single parents. I wish we are able to recall and come back to our senses and come to our cultures, that it is important to take care of one's skin. I was impressed when I went to Garabatura yesterday. Our people are imaginative. They can think. I believe you saw the elephant. You saw the giraffe. I was happy to see that our people, even where we think it is far, they are able to embrace our culture. For this simple reason, because I don't want to tell you more, like my brother here, because we can say more, because we feel offended. There was a girl, a Kikuyu girl, she went to South Africa. All the other people could speak in their language, but any time, a Kikuyu, there were many Kikuyus in that campus, but she could not communicate. You know, sometimes there are even something that are private. You don't discuss to the whole world. She had to speak English because she did not even know her mother tongue. Speaking even in Kikuyu is a problem. And especially those people whom we stay here in town, our children and grandchildren. As Honorable Gore has simply stated, in Meru you find that there is that museum. There are all those animals inside that museum. Why don't you think of making the same even in Isiolo, so that our children can also learn? We move our money from here, we take it elsewhere. We can also make money out of our cultures. Isiolo is blessed. We have got more than 42 tribes with different cultures. We can learn from each other and we take the best. My friend Gira has stated so well, culture is dynamic, it is progressive, but the way we have taken it too far. Because even in this house, I don't think I need to come with a tie so that Waithaka can speak what you want to speak. Even without a tie, you know, those are the small things. Even without a tie, Waithaka will still be Waithaka. What will come out from me is still the same, despite having that tie. I'm only smart when I'm in a tie. It is very wrong. There are some things that we have carried from Zoom that they are colonizing us, even our minds, even today. And with those simple reminder, when I see the clerk looking at the Constitution, I know possibly my time is almost over, but please, let's take our culture seriously, and I support this motion fully. We should have a multicultural center, and like Mr. Ngira who says it should be very interior. Most of our tribes, kinsmen, in town, you can put it a place that is also accessible to all of us. And with those very many words, Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to sit down. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Kamila.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I stand to support the motion. It is timely and very important. When we talk about the culture, we have bigger imagination, whereby most of our culture are not practiced today. And when we are talking about the culture, I want to take my honorable members to a proverb that says, charity begins at home. When we are talking, as much as we are talking about revenue, are we really practicing it at our homes? I'm challenging fathers in the house and challenging mothers in the house. Previously, some years ago, I have heard of an occasion, it is called Go, where we are blessed with a son. We usually grace an occasion of celebrating getting sons. Those occasions were not there. The artifacts, we find them. We are celebrating women's groups, whereby on many occasions they are presenting to us the clothes, what is required, and when we are intended to have such kind of occasion, at least we get them. But are we really practicing it? Are we really practicing that culture? Are we telling our children? Are we communicating to them? Let us go back to our home, practice it as alone at our home, show them by example, motivating others. I congratulate our fellow members in the House who have joined other women groups which have conducted some weeks ago. They have represented us well. Thank you very much, Honorable Mheshimiwa DEKHA, Mheshimiwa Golicha, whereby this Sakuya night they have attended and they have learned a lot. Let us, if the matter of culture is there, let us come in good numbers, grace the occasion, motivate our people, and think of how empower them. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Mheshimiwa Loro Kalo.
Asante sana Bwana Spika, kunipa nafasi na kuweza kuchangia hii mjadala kwa wakati ambao unaofaa. Ni mjadala mzuri. Waswahili wanasema mwacha mila ni mtumwa. Na hivi sasa kweli ni kwamba watu wetu wamekuwa watumwa kwa kupoteza mila zetu ambazo zilikuwa nzuri. Siku hizi tunakuta watoto wanafaa nguo ama mama anafaa nguo ambazo hazina adabu. Kuta mama mkubwa, mama nyanya, wanatoa jukuu, anafaa nguo ambazo hata huwezi angalia mara mbili, unafunga macho unaangalia kama. Ni kwa sababu tumeingia katika mila ambazo si zetu. Mama kitambo hapo alikuwa anafunga shuka ama lezo. Akija mbele ya wazee ama akija kitoka kwa nyumba, naona mama anachukua lezo, anajifunga. Lakini hivi leo hayo mambo tumeyatupilia mbali. Ni kwa sababu watu wanasema tumechanuka, tumejua. Lakini kumbe tumeingia katika mila za watu. Kwa sababu tunaangalia kwa TV, kwa runinga, tunaangalia hizo vitu. Mr. Speaker, katika county za Meru, county yetu jirani, watu wanafundishwa mtoto kuanzia class 1 mpaka class 3 wanafundishwa lugha ya mama. Fundisho lugha ya mama ndio ndiposa mtoto asiweze kusahau lugha yake. Lakini katika jamii zetu wengi hivi leo hawezi kuzungumza na lugha yao. Inakuwa ni vigumu. Ni vigumu mtoto kuzungumza. Kwa sababu sisi tumetupa mila. Mimi nakumbuka nikiwa mtoto kuanzia nikiwa lower school. Jumamosi nilikuwa tumetoka shule, nilikuwa nikichunga mbuzi. Na mara nyingi nikiwa nimeingia mchezo wa kuchimba ile wakati ile tulikuwa tunacheza ile mchezo wa nyumbani. Nimeacha mbuzi, nimepoteza. Mtu mwingine akinipata nikicheza mbuzi siko kwa mbuzi, alikuwa ananipatia discipline nzuri sana. Ninaweka unyo mzuri. Na nitakimbia kutafuta hiyo mbuzi na nimepata. Na nikifika nyumbani siwezi sema nilipigwa, nilifanywa hivi, kwa sababu ukisema utapigwa. Lakini leo hii mzazi apige mtoto, pengine apate mtoto anafanya vitu ambavyo haipaswi, aingie kuadhibu hiyo mtoto kwa ile mambo anafanya. Hii leo atapelekwa katika mahakama, atastakiwa kwamba alipiga mtoto wangu akaumiza. Hiyo kweli ni kabisa, ni kwamba tumepotea kwa sababu ya kuacha ile mila zetu. Kuna mambo kweli katika mila zetu zingine kweli siko nafaa, lakini ukiangalia kusema ukweli ile kindani mila zetu zikose nafundisha na zikose naweka discipline. Kujua huyu ni mtu mkubwa wa umri mkubwa, pengine ukiwa kwa gari ama ukiwa mahali, ukiona huyo mtu amefika na ana kiti unamuondokea. Ama kuna mambo aungezungumza mbele hao watu wakubwa ambao wako wamekuzidi umri. Ni kwa sababu ya ile heshima ilikuwa imewekwa katika mila. Ni ukweli tumepotesha mila kabisa. Hivi leo utaka kujua mtu, kufuatilia mtu kujua ni mlango gani, umetoka wapi, baba yako ni nani. Hiyo ilikuwa inatusaidia pengine ukiwa unamchumbia mtu, kwanza unaanza na wewe ni msichana nani, mila yako, wewe ni mlango gani. Lakini leo kando na dada yako, nataka kujua mwingine huyo mwingine ama nani. Kwa hivyo watu tumepoteza mila. Unakuta watoto wa familia moja wale wanajuana, unakuta mtu amemdunga mtoto ya ndugu yake ama nani, amemweka mimba. Kwa hivyo hiyo ni njia moja ya kupoteza mila. Mila, ningeomba mimi naunga hii mjadala kwamba tuwe na cultural center. Ndio watu waangalie ile tunaita nini kwa Kiswahili? Ile uzuri ama mila zetu. Sababu najua tukiweka hizo center, jamii ya Turkana Imbe, jamii ya Somali, jamii ya Boran, ya Meru, watu wanakumbuka ile culture, wanaona uzuri. Na wakiona ile uzuri, kuna wale watafuata. Mimi nimeenda wakati moja nimeenda Turkana Cultural Tobongolore. Na ilinipendeza sana. Nilikaa hapo 1 week. Ilikuwa ni culture mzuri sana ambayo nilikuwa naona Toposa, kuna Karmojong, kuna Jie, wale watu wanazungumza, sisi tunaita wale wanazungumza lugha moja, tunaita Ateke. Ilikuwa ni culture mzuri. Na nakumbuka Turkana County ilipata pesa nyingi sana kwa sababu watu walikuwa wanatoka Uganda, watu walikuwa wanatoka Ethiopia, wengine walikuwa wanatoka Sudan. Hiyo ni county ambazo na Kenya kulikuwa na watu wengi. Na hii ni njia moja ya kuweza kulete income. Na iliweza kuleta income Turkana, na vitu mingi tulinunua. Hata mimi nilinunua kiti moja ya kitamaduni. Na hata sasa niko nayo. Wakati wazee wanakaa kwa ile nini unakaa nayo. So mimi naunga mjadala hii mkono ya kwamba tuwe na culture center moja katika Isiolo, na itakuwa ni njia moja hata ya kuweza kuchangia katika mambo ya utalii. Wakati mmoja nilikuwa nikienda Samburu Serena, nakumbuka Turkana ukiwa umejenga manyata moja. Ilikuwa inaitwa Lora, nafikiri mheshimiwa speaker anajua. Ikifika jioni watu Turkana walikuwa wanateremka wamefaa culture yao. Wa Samburu pia walikuwa wanaimba. Na ilikuwa inapendeza sana wakati wanaimba. Mzungu mmoja nilikuta akasema kwa sababu wakati mmoja alikuwa anaimba Kisamburu peke yake. Sasa ile hiye sasa wakati mmoja wakati wa Turkana walikuja, kuna ile ngoma ya Turkana wanacheza wapi. Mturkana anasema hajawahi ona hii. Na kama kuna kitu itafanya arudi Kenya ni kwa sababu ameona kitu tofauti na kile kingine alikuwa amezoea kuona. Na kupitia hiyo watu walikuwa wanapata mapato. Walikuwa wanapata mapato, na hiyo ilikuwa imeleta watu kuwa pamoja, kushikana pamoja, na ikaleta ile watu wakaoana, wakaona ile usemeji. Wakati hiyo mambo ya vita ambazo sasa tunaona hivi sasa haikukua. Watu walikuwa wanapendana na watu walikuwa wanatembea pamoja. Haungekuwa na wasiwasi ya kusema nikienda kwa mtu fulani itakuwa hivi. Hiyo ilileta watu pamoja. Najua hii culture hii tukiwa na cultural center italeta watu pamoja. Watu kushikana, watu kupendana, na itatufundisha mambo mengi sana. Kwa hivyo mimi naunga hii mjadala, naunga mkono ya kwamba hii county iweze kutengeleza culture center ambayo itafanya kivizazi vyetu ambao sasa wamepotea, kwa sababu tunasema wamepotea, waweze kukumbuka culture yao, wajue umuhimu ya culture yao. Ndio waweze kushikilia, kwa sababu ni njia moja ya kufundisha discipline, kuweka discipline katika jamii zetu. Kwa hivyo jana juzi nimekuwa katika tena ya culture ya Sakuye, ilikuwa naita Sakuye night. Mimi nilikuwa nimealikwa na nilienda pale. Na niliona ilikuwa ni culture mzuri, walikuwa wanafundisha mambo ya chakula, vile chakula yao walikuwa wanakula. Vile watu ukitaka kwenda kumtumbia, utaenda kwa familia fulani. Ni kitu mzuri, niliona ni kitu mzuri sana. Ngawaje kama vile mheshimiwa Gira amesema ilikuwa ni njia moja kupata mke, ni kweli. Ilikuwa hakuna njia zingine. Wakati hiyo ni mpaka muingie kwa hiyo ngoma ndio uweze kupata mwenzako. Kwa sababu haungepata wakati ile zamani, ungeweza kusimamisha msichana wakati kama mchana unasimamisha kwa barabara. Siku hizi wanachikana mikono hivi. Kila mtu na wake. Hawaogopi wasasi. Hakuna ile heshima. Hata mimi nasema hii hata wakati yetu hatuko na hii. Ukitafuta msichana ulikuwa unatafuta labda akienda kwa kuni, ama akienda kwa mali ama kwa hiyo nini wakati ya hiyo ngoma, lakini leo hii hakuna. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Speaker, tunataka kama assembly tuisukume hiki kitu kabisa, tuhakikishe tuko na culture center ya kuweza kufanya watu kukumbuka yale mazuri ya culture ambayo culture yetu ilikuwa nazo. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker. Nimeshukuru sana wale viongozi ambao wamechangia hii mjadala na wale wengine pia wako kwa nyumba wakisikiza. Mheshimiwa Speaker, hii mambo ya cultural ni mambo muhimu sana Mheshimiwa Speaker. Ukijaribu kuangalia vile ndugu wangu Mheshimiwa Lorota anasema, inaleta mambo ya usalama. Kwa sababu tukiwa pamoja tukifanya hizo cultural pamoja, sisi vile tumeandika kwa hii motion, tunataka tukue na hizi sub county zote zikuwe na cultural zake. Iwe na hiyo cultural centers. Mheshimiwa Speaker, tukiwa nazo itatusaidia sana. Itafanya jamii yetu ishikane na ipendane na itakuwa inaleta usalama. Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni kabila 42 iko hapa Isiolo hii. Tukijaribu kujua hizo culture zote na zuzipate, kwanza mimi nimetoka kwa jamii ya Waborana. Mheshimiwa Speaker, tumepotea. Mheshimiwa Speaker, mimi nakumbuka nikiwa msichana mamangu alikuwa akisema ikifika masaa za jioni na wakati ile sala ya magharibi inaadhiniwa, msichana ikifika hajafika kwa nyumba, huyo msichana si msichana tena. Saizi Mheshimiwa Speaker, wasichana wetu wanarudi saa 3, saa 4, hakuna kuuliza. Mheshimiwa Speaker, tumepotea. Mheshimiwa Speaker, tumepotea. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni vizuri tujaribu kuona hizo cultural centers, tujaribu kupractice hizo cultural yani cultural iwe inatumika, yani tunaweza kusaidia jamii yetu. Mheshimiwa Speaker, last time vile Mheshimiwa Kamila amesema tulikuwa na siku ya night. Tulisoma mambo mingi ambaye jamii zetu zote ziko na cultural ambaye ni nzuri, itatusaidia. Kwa hivyo asante Mheshimiwa Speaker, mimi nimeshukuru, na tukifuata hizo cultural hata mambo ya divorce inakuwa ni chache. Sababu akina mama watakuwa wanajua zile heshima ambayo wazazi wetu walikuwa wakikaa. Mama ameolewa na mtu mmoja, amepata watoto 12, amewalea mpaka tukafika umri hii. Mheshimiwa Speaker, hizi harika yetu kwa sababu zile cultural hawafuati hizo utamaduni, ndio inaleta divorce kwa watu wanakosana, wakipata watoto wawili ama mtoto mmoja, watu wanarudi nyumbani, tunapata wajane, tunapata wamama ambaye ni divorcee ambaye wako na watoto nyumbani, maisha yanasambaratika. Na nikiongea mambo ya wamama pia wanaume wakifuata hizi cultural watakuwa na heshima mama ako na heshima yake. Kwa jamii ako na heshima yake. Hizo heshima zote tumekosa. Hapa ni kama we stay, tumekuwa wazungu. Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni vizuri tukue na hizi cultural centers ndio tuweze kusaidika Mheshimiwa Speaker. Asante Mheshimiwa, nimeshukuru.
Thank you. Appreciate. If you need a culture, you need a land now, I think you are land chairman. I think be a leader, be a good leader and try to create that land for the same, isn't it? Yes, so I put a question. Aware that the cultural activities are a function of the county government according to the 4th schedule of the Constitution of Kenya. Appreciating that Isiolo County is endowed with rich cultural diversity and beautiful scenery sites. For appreciating that the development of cultural heritage sites and cultural festival can achieve economic development through commercialization of culture practices and the preservation of these cultures for future generation. Noting that the Isiolo County is endowed with rich, diverse cultural ethnic groups that represent all the 42 and more Kenyan tribes. Further noting that the establishment of cultural centers within the county will promote our cultural diversity, attract further local and international tourism, increases county revenue, as well improve commercial concern that failure of county government to exploit the county-rich cultural heritage, diversification and related products is denying Isiolo residents talent and artifact development. Further concerned that lack of utilization of these rich county residents' cultural heritage as affecting the reduction of county revenue, improvement of youth and women livelihoods, and the inactivation youth and women talents, and more so low performance to Isiolo County as a tourist destination in the region. This House therefore urges the County Executive Committee member for tourism, trade and the cooperative to 1. Identify and establish potential cultural heritage sites in each of the sub-county. Organize seasonal cultural festival in each of the sub-counties and annual cultural festival in Isiolo sub-county civil business district. As men of that opinion, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, say nay. Aye, sir. Next one. That's all for today. So members, this House adjourned until tomorrow, that is Wednesday at 9. Thank you.